Good evening and welcome to another fascinating episode of the Chocolate Box Presents. I'm your host, Chocolate Drop, and as usual, you are in for a fascinating program. Tonight we're going to follow up on a subject matter that we've covered several times through the, 10, 15 years we've been doing the Chocolate Box. But it's a subject matter that most men at some point may have to deal with. And the subject is dealing with prostate cancer. So I am delighted to have on my program tonight, Mr. Rocky Hendricks, or William Rocky Hendricks, who's going to share with us some of his personal journey with dealing with prostate cancer. So, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Listen, there's this subject matter. Again, some people deal with it in silence, but I'm so glad that you were willing to come on and kind of be transparent, so that as we're having this conversation, perhaps other people will also not feel so intimidated or inhibited about talking about prostate cancer, what it is, and the whole 9 yards.
I think most men are.
Yeah.
The way I discovered it, it was rather unusual. I would go for an annual physical every year. And going for my regular physician for the physical, they discovered my PSA level was high.
PSA is for?
That is what determines the numbers that say that you are borderline or close to having a problem with the prostate.
And what is the normal level, or that where it wouldn't be an issue, whereas yours were high?
My numbers were high, yes. And at that point in time, I think anything above, I may be wrong on this, 3.2, you have to remember this was 16 years ago this took place.
And this is not your area of expertise, it's just that?
No, by no means. What I'm hoping to achieve is maybe someone will go early, have a physical, be checked out, have the PSA levels checked, make sure that they don't have to go through the same experience. What we're dealing with, basically with prostate cancer, is the way I was told by the doctor is if you're a man, eventually you're going to have prostate cancer.
I've heard that also, that it may not take you out, but eventually you're going to have that meeting.
Yeah, and normally it is slow. In my particular situation, it was a little different because where the cancer was located was at the bulb of the prostate itself, and the threat was that it could spread relatively easy. I was given a few choices at the time.
Well, before you get to the choices, did you have any indication that something was wrong?
No, I did not. That's what was so strange about it. I didn't realize it until I get a call back from the doctor about the physical, and he says, we want to check you again. They checked me again, then he sends me to a urologist. A urologist checks me, and the urologist that I went to was not the one that actually did the surgery. But what had happened was, in the meantime, I thought, how could this be happening to me? I don't have any symptoms. Everybody always talks about what you go through when you are experiencing that problem. And I wasn't going through any of that. So that's what kind of threw us.
So you went to another urologist to get a second opinion?
For a second opinion. Matter of fact, the doctor suggested I go see this one.
Okay.
And he actually said if I was having it done myself, this is who I'd want doing it. So I felt that was as good an endorsement as you could get.
Yeah, if you want a urologist to recommend another urologist for the procedure.
So I go see this doctor, and he runs some tests on me and everything. They did blood tests first. And then I guess it was a week or so later, I get a call back from his office that I need to come in again for a follow-up.
Uh-oh, were you worried about that once they said follow-up?
Yeah, I didn't feel real warm and fuzzy with that.
Okay.
So we go back, my wife and I, because she's involved with this also, and that's one thing that a lot of men are very hesitant about letting their wife or whomever know about this sort of thing with you, because
Yeah, I want to talk about this. So how important is that, rather than to go through that journey solo, is to bring your partner in on the discussion early?
Well, they're part of it, actually. You know, finding out what your options are makes all the world of difference. And while we were at the doctor's office, my wife and I sat down and across the desk from him, and he talked to us about it. He laid out the options for me. He says, we can do surgery on it, which was a radical prostatectomy, he called it. And he said there's a new technique called the Da Vinci, which is where they make like 6 holes in you instead of a big cut and all. And the Da Vinci process.
Now, you said new, though. This is in 2000 and what, Gus? 2007, okay,
Yes.
but it was new at that time.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if it was new or just new to Charlotte, but anyway, Presbyterian Hospital is the one that did that
got you.
at the time. So we go through the screening process with the doctor, talk about that. He gives me a choice at that time. Now, at the age, I was in my 50s then, so I'm thinking to myself, this is not good. My wife and I discussed it. He said you can go through radiation pellets treatment, you know, but he says if you do that, likely in 5 years you'll be back here. Well, my thoughts are in 5 years, I'm gonna be 5 years older, and
you don't want to see him again for the same situation.
no, you tend to decay and go down as you get older, it seems like. So we opted to have it done then. The process itself of getting into the hospital, getting everything set up that you go through, it's not difficult by any means. But once you have had the surgery and it's done, then you're dealing with it afterwards. And it will take you a good 45 to 90 days to get past it.
To mean it's for to heal
To
physically?
heal from it, yes.
So that's dealing with the physical. What about the psychological and emotional part of the diagnosis? What do I do, considering the options that you have?
Okay.
Yeah, about your manhood. How do you feel? How your partner? Talk about that part too, because again, there's somebody that's going to watch this program, and there's, for lack of a better phrase, suffering in silence, but they need to talk about it.
It's a crushing blow to your manhood, naturally. I mean, I've been fine for all these years, and now all of a sudden I'm caught up in this. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, there's no good way out. So you just have to bite the bullet and go through with it. And my wife and I, we discussed it, and our option was, let's go ahead and have the surgery and get it done. So she was involved with that decision also. I mentioned that, you know, it's after the fact that you've had the surgery, going through the healing process. You know, you'll wear a catheter for a good 30 days. And of course you don't leave the house with that, because they'll discharge you after you've been in the hospital probably about, I think I was there 5 days for that.
Okay.
Providing there's no other complications. Once you've gone through that process, you try to get your strength back as far as, because it takes a lot out of you, any type of surgery.
The type of exercise that you do, maybe walking, or, you know, how strenuous of exercise can you do after having the procedure?
Not really. For probably about 60 days or so, you really don't do a whole lot. They suggest that you do Kegels.
What's a Kegel?
It's kind of an exercise of the pelvic area
Okay.
in there, and they show you how to do that and everything. And it helps, I'm sure. You know, I found myself wondering, wow, here I am going through this again. It takes something out of you, you know. It makes you feel like you're missing something. And before I go too far, I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Any man that's 40 years old get checked for it because you
So
really
tell me, any
need to
man
do
that's
it.
40 years old,
Be checked.
get checked.
Have the PSA checked and stay on top of it.
Is it hereditary?
In some cases, I think so. I'm the only one in my family on my side of the family that has had that problem. My brother is older than I am, like I mentioned, by 5 years, so he hasn't had that problem yet. So,
When you think about other groups that may have support groups like the Susan G. Komen and they do the breast cancer, are there any groups, organizations that bring men who are dealing with surviving with prostate cancer to where they can kind of talk about?
there may be, but I don't know of it right offhand. Breast cancer gets all the attention.
Yes, it does,
And
yeah.
actually, according to what I've read, there's more cases of prostate cancer than there are of breast cancer. So,
Good, good, good. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a brief pause for the cause, and then we're going to come back and find out more about what it's like to have to deal with prostate cancer. You are watching the Chocolate Box Presents. I'm your host, Chocolate Drop, and we'll be right back after this brief pause for the cause. Hey, Chocolate Drop here from the Chocolate Box TV. Hey, in addition to loving chocolate, I bet you also didn't know that I love to hike. That's why when I'm hiking, I've got my hiking boots, I've got my Camelback for my water, and I've got my backpack, because when you're hiking, you never know what you're going to get. Kind of like watching the Chocolate Box every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. on Time Warner Cable Channel 21. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Chocolate Box TV and Vimeo's /TXTV/videos. Hey, this is Chocolate Drop with the Chocolate Box Presents and
Tia Capers of My Sankofa Table.
And we want to encourage you to tune into both our programs. The Chocolate Box comes on every Tuesday at 12 noon and then again at 9 p.m. And what about My Sankofa Table?
My Sankofa Table airs every second and fourth Saturday of the month, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
On Spectrum Cable Channel 21 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. So you never know what you're going to get.
Nope.
You can watch the Chocolate Box Presents or
My Sankofa Table. What else?
and everyone is welcome at the table.
Absolutely.
Hope to see you there.
See you there. Bye.
When I'm in Charlotte, I tune into the Chocolate Box. We back, revved up. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Chocolate Box Present. I am your host, Chocolate Drop, and my guest is Mr. William Rocky Hendrick, no S. And we're talking about prostate cancer, dealing with prostate cancer. So sometimes that diagnosis for some, it may be a death blow, but it doesn't have to be. And that's why we want to do this program. So let's talk about on the other side of the diagnosis, the surgery. Let's talk about the positive side of dealing with it the way you dealt with it.
well, the detection's everything at the time that you catch it. Prostate cancer is one of the slowest growing cancers, is what they say. So over a period of time, you and I both had a friend who went through that, who's deceased
We can say his
now.
name. That's another reason why I wanted to do this program.
Okay.
Was Mr. Willie Royal, and he was dealing with prostate cancer. We've done, like I said, several programs dealing with prostate cancer. Well, when it's someone that's dear to you, and you feel like, well, what can we do to get more people aware and so that we get checked? So this one is for you, Willie Royal. Rest in power. Continue.
The detection of it, like I say, I didn't have any idea that I had prostate cancer. So I can't be the only one out there that was like that. Other people have had to experience that too. So that's why I'm such a stickler for getting checked, make sure. And after you've had the surgery and all, I think you'll do regular checkups for a couple years probably, and then they'll put you on an annual where they do it. By the way, I still do physical every year at this point in time.
You're monitoring your numbers, right?
Yes. And mine was at 0.00. When they remove the prostate, if the cancer's there, it pretty well takes care of that. So what you don't want to do is wait too long and the cancer spreads.
It spreads, yeah.
And that's what happened to our friend.
Yes. Yes.
So it's difficult to deal with in some respects, but then again, you know,
You're being proactive about something. It doesn't have to take you out.
no, you just have to get on with life and go on.
Getting on with life and going on. Again, some people will worry about the sexual activity and how does that impact one's sexual activity. You want to talk about that? How you feel about?
Oh, well, we can. You know, I can share what I know about it,
Okay.
and I can only speak from my experience there.
Right.
I've had four friends actually, who've had the same surgery that I have.
This is the Da Vinci, using the Da Vinci?
Yes, and that technique.
Okay.
And basically, men don't talk about things like that. You know, we'll talk about cars or sports or
yeah,
something like
weather.
that.
Yeah.
But as far as that goes, once you've had the surgery and you've healed up, it'll take a while to do it, but you will get back to being able to have an erection.
Mm-hmm. So you can have an erection. What about ejaculation?
No.
Okay, so you can get erection. And then I guess there are other methods where you still can satisfy your partner,
Yes.
where one doesn't have to feel so inhibited or feel less than a man if they can't ejaculate. Because, I mean, they may not want kids anyway at that point.
Right. Yeah, it's an emotional thing. Probably affects the man more than it does the woman.
Okay.
Quite honestly.
That's why it's good to bring your partner in to
Yeah.
talk about it, right?
Yeah, it's definitely is good to do that.
As a side note, again, while we're doing this program, I have several men's groups that I'm involved with, and we had a conversation on Zoom. And once one of the fraternity brothers talked about they were dealing with it, he ended up opening the door for about 3 or 4 other fraternity brothers to actually start saying, well, guess what, you know, and we didn't know. So again, that kind of was a light bulb saying, wow, how many times are we interacting with people and we don't know that they're dealing with something that perhaps we can kind of, you know, help lighten that load.
It happens all the time. You know, we see people in one light and think of them as being an individual, and they're out here.
Not a carrier
you don't know
world.
what anybody's dealing with,
Amen.
though. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the problem. So, I like to say, if you don't know where I've been, you know.
Yeah. We mentioned earlier, before we started rolling, about Friendship Baptist Church. We're here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I think Friendship Baptist Church does a very good job with their men's symposium about men's health. And there's a gentleman who's hosted this program a couple of times, Dr. Walter Burke, and he was instrumental in starting a group at Friendship Baptist Church to get black men to come out and talk about prostate cancer and prostate
Yeah.
health. And I understand that you have something totally unrelated, but about Friendship Baptist Church.
Well, as you know, I'm a car guy. I've been a car person my whole life. They do a car show in the fall of the year, and I think it's Dr. Jones, the pastor there.
Yeah, Dr. Clifford Jones.
They
Yeah.
put on a nice show, and it's, like I say, normally around September in that area, and a lot of people from all over the city, and even people from out of town come to it.
Wow.
It's a big event.
And I didn't know about it until you shared it with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, Friendship Baptist Church does a lot of good in the community. They have a beautiful facility out there, and can't say enough good things about them.
Yeah. That's why we wanted to give them a shout out in this program. So hopefully, with their huge congregation, that a lot of them will watch this program, and more men will come to their men's symposium to get checked out as it relates to prostate cancer. Foods, and this may or may not be in your area, but are there certain type of foods and dietary issues, concerns that we need to be aware of when it comes to taking care of our prostate?
You know, I'm really not good on answering that. There are certain things that will irritate you.
For example?
Coffee.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and how many times have you and I shared coffee
Yeah.
together?
Hello.
It's okay.
What about chocolates? You know?
Most likely, everything that's good,
Okay.
I would say.
Okay. And I just realized I didn't bring my chocolates on the set, but we'll get to that later. But I guess you should eat vegetables, fruits, and maybe
Yes.
stay away from alcohol.
But yeah, basically, you know,
Tobacco.
anything you would do to take care of yourself pretty much is going to be in line. That's what a doctor's going to tell you.
What's your outlook, knowing that this is now 15 years or so in your rearview mirror? What advice would you give to the Rocky, let's say 16 years ago, as he was approaching this? Now that here it is, this a decade and a half
Well,
in your past.
you know, it's not something any male person wants to find out that they're going to have to go through the surgery. First place, we don't like doctors that much, and we don't like surgeries. So get checked.
Okay.
Get checked regular. Had I not gone for the physical, it might have gone undetected had it not shown up then. So it's not something you want to play around with, and don't ignore it.
And don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
Don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
Okay. Well, and there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
I think we've pretty well touched on about all the basis of it. You know, it's quite an experience, but life goes on.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think that the more people talk about it, and who knows how many people will actually go and get checked as a result of this program.
Well, I do urge you and everyone that views it, and even people that don't, somebody pass that word along, get out there and get checked.
Get checked. So, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your obviously busy schedule to appear on tonight's episode of the Chocolate Box Present. And they say they want us to go a little bit further. So let's see, what else can we talk about as it relates to men's health? We talked about exercise. We talked about food, diet, family members, but it's not hereditary. You know? What are some things you look forward to in the future?
Well, you know, when you get to be my age, I think part of the secret to the future is having something to look forward to. Things you do. I'd stay fairly active.
So you're retired now.
I am.
Okay. So what are some of the things you enjoy doing now that you don't have to worry about your prostate?
Well, my
You
wife.
like cars.
Yeah. Besides that, we do some volunteer stuff. My wife and I do.
Okay.
And we're fairly active.
So you're giving back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's something that everybody needs to do.
They say to whom much is given, much is required, or something like that. Yeah.
Well, if you look around this city we live in, and you see how it's changed through the years, and there's still people struggling that need help, you know, and a random act of kindness goes a long ways in this world, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. That's why I try to speak to everyone when I see somebody on the street.
And you know, you said that before, and I thought about that just the other day, that how important it is just to acknowledge, just to recognize someone with eye contact and maybe saying good morning. You know, that means a lot.
Yeah, you know, something you might have said to someone, a child around, or what have you.
A long way.
You know, it might not register at that point in time, and that's okay. But at some time, it may be, I remember that. And just the pause for the thought.
Yeah, there's a phrase that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So you never know that whatever you may say, maybe be just the nugget that that person needs, and they may remember it for the rest of their lives. You know, one other thing is that I realize that you're a native Charlottean, so you've watched this city blow up, for lack of a better phrase, blow up. I moved here in like '89, so I've seen some of that growth. But what was it like being a youngster here in Charlotte, the small town, when Beatty's-Ford Road was considered the outskirts?
Well, you know, I remember when Park Road Shopping Center was built in 1958, and that was kind of a landmark in Charlotte. And I remember people saying, nobody's going out there that far.
Park Road.
Park Road.
That's about how many miles from Uptown Charlotte now?
About 3.5.
About 3.5, yeah.
I imagine. Maybe 4, I don't know.
You got people that are all out. They say that it's, about 113 people, 115 people move to the Charlotte region every day.
I know. It's amazing. Where are they coming from? That's why we need more affordable housing here in Charlotte.
Well, that's a whole nother program, but I agree with you 100%.
Well,
you know, as a real estate broker, we need more affordable housing for sure, for sure, for sure. Well, we're going to bring this plane to a landing. Again, normally we like to end our program by offering our guests an opportunity to participate in a little ritual we call the eating of the chocolates. So we have them in the studio, we just don't have them on the set. So if you hang around, we'll get you some chocolate, or we'll have to invite you back next time to talk about prostate cancer or cars or men's group. We're in a men's group together or something like that. All right. Well, Rocky
Appreciate it.
Hendricks, Singular, thank you so much for appearing on tonight's episode of the Chocolate Box
Thank you.
Presents. Thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. We encourage you to tune in each week, same day, same time, for another fascinating episode of the Chocolate Box Presents. We'll see you next week, and go get checked. All right? All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right.